Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm Shayna Cersei and I'm so excited to paint with you today. So today we are, yesterday we did garlic, today is day 7, and on our everyday watercolor journey where I give you lots of ideas for painting in your watercolor journal. We're going to try to paint as many days as we can. We're going to jump right in today, and if you haven't seen any of the earlier videos, I'm kind of on a food, vegetable, kitchen type kick right now. So I'm going to do onions today. Probably golden red onion, something like that. So onions are great. Why are onions great? They taste delicious, but also to paint because they're a simple shape, but there's a lot of complexity to it. So it's great as something to practice. So onions are round or rounded, maybe slightly, not perfectly round shape, but like an ovalish, roundish shape. I'm going to draw a couple on here, and I know you can't see this very well. You will see it as soon as I put paint down on paper or here. I will do it in a slightly darker pencil. So 2 onions or onion shapes, just roundish, round balls. But what we are going to do or practice in our little sketchy sketchbook here is layering and doing a gradient wash, leaving areas that are in highlight but that gently transition into darker colors. So and that gives the impression of having a glossy or shiny surface on these onions. So let's get started. I've drawn out my circles and I'm going to jump right into what color do I want these to be. So I'm going to start with this and I'm going to layer. So I'm going to be subtle and kind of work my way up into darker colors. So I'm going to start with this raw sienna here. And I'm using this size 4 brush. That is too small for me today. Let's see. I'm gonna pick out at least my size 6. So I'm starting with a size 6 Princeton Aqua Elite brush. And I will leave, or here, I'll lighten these lines up a little now that you've seen kind of where I'm going. And I'm going to start, and I'm going to have my light source be on this side, kind of coming from up here. So that's where the shiny section would be. So I'm going to start at the bottom of my onion. And 2 things I'm going to remember is that they have shape and form, but also have texture. Or if you look at one, they have lines that kind of go in one direction, like up and down, like they're stripy like this. So I'm going to keep that in mind as I'm painting. I'm also going to paint this way, like in a curve around the onion surface, but I am going to probably not leave this completely white up here, but you can see I'm adding water to this section up here. Not really any paint just yet. But as I add more paint down here and it touches that, it's going to bleed kind of gently into that area. So I'm just going to put on this layer and then I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to do the same thing over here. So I have kind of 2 to practice on. While I go. And again, the biggest thing with this is that we can add lots of layers and play with contrast and really work on perfecting shape and form and pushing ourselves to go darker. And you'll see I'm going to go much darker on this bottom side. Okay, so this is just kind of phase 1. This one, you know what, I'm going to paint the whole thing this color. And then, so that glossy area is going to have some of this. And then I'm going to go super dark right away at the bottom here with some of that raw sienna. So you can kind of experiment with ways to apply color. remembering wet on wet, wet on dry, experimenting with the two, like what's going to give you better results for blending, what's going to give you better results for leaving texture. I have a clean brush now. I'm actually just lifting out some of the color and blending that area together. I'm still going to leave this. I'm going to keep working on this for a second. So I want to add to this raw sienna, I'm going to add some quinacridone magenta. So we're going to get this, I don't love that color. I'm going to pick up some Quin Gold, which is this rustic kind of brown color. So depending on what kind of onion you are painting, if you're painting a red or a purple onion, then you're going to use some different colors. So now you can start to see how it's really starting to take some form, some shape. I'm going to leave these highlights. I can always go back and blend this better or more later, as long as I haven't left super, super harsh edges or add darker color there. Let's go even darker. So I'm going to go with the Quin Gold, so this rustic orangey color. I'm going to add some purple to it. Oh my gosh, look at, so I used dioxazine purple, which is like a super strong purple color. And purple and yellow are complementary colors on the color wheel. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take purple. So when I mix them together, it makes brown. I'm going to take purple. I'm going to add it directly to the already wet Quin Gold here, which is a very yellow orange color. And just let them mix right on the page. And then using the tip of my brush to add some of that texture. Oh my gosh, look how dark that is. You might get to that point and be like, oh my gosh, I'm regretting this. Just go with it. It's your sketchbook. Just go with it. Try not to fuss with it too much. Try to see what happens. Ooh. All right, I'm going to let this one dry after I kind of fuss with this just a little bit more. These lines got a little away from me and aren't really curving in the right direction that I wanted them to curve. Blend this up here. Being careful, I don't want it to get super muddy. I still want it to be really light on that top side. All right, let's let that dry and we'll add some more details to make it look hopefully a little more oniony. So what I am going to do, and you know, again, if you're not using anything to observe, you might forget parts of what an onion looks like, but I think I need to add also a little bit of a top to it, kind of where the onion would have been attached, like the stem. So just adding a little bit of a stem up here. And then also I'm going to add like a darker like belt of a shadow like through the center here so that we can have kind of that same look of highlight kind of going around as well. Pew, 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 pew. All right, I am gonna I just picked up a clean dryer brush just to use what's on the page. So this brush is dry and clean. I'm just pulling out paint that's already wet on the page and kind of dry brushing it out. Now I'm picking up some more paint on this side. All right, we're gonna let that one lie, and then I'm gonna work on this one a little bit. This little highlight I think is a little harsh in there. I'll work on that in a minute. Actually, no, I'm gonna work on it right now. There we go. Let it all dry and then we'll reassess. Okay, let's work on this guy over here. And again, we're going to put that kind of top in. That I didn't draw in before. But I think that will help. And also I'm going to put in on this one. So I took some darker color, some of that purple, and I am going to kind of put in a crack in the peel right here. Blend, blend, blend that out. Not even a crack in the peel, but like where they overlap. This is making me hungry. I want to get starting cooking in my kitchen. So I used really thick Quinn. Nope, this is raw sienna. And I'm using my brush almost like a pencil. And I'm just adding texture. And just playing. Again, not everything has to be a masterpiece. It can be a learning experience. Just learning how paints work, learning how to make a subtle shadow. And sometimes it works out, and sometimes you just got to start over because you've gone too far. That's the one of the biggest things with watercolor that's different than acrylics or oils, where those paints generally you can kind of keep playing with and layering and layering. If you don't like something, just paint a base white over it and start over again and cover up your mistakes, especially if you have like one tiny mistake in one little area. Watercolor is not always as forgiving in that manner. Sometimes you do have to just live with certain mistakes and incorporate them into the painting, and it works out just great, and it can add some character to your painting that you wouldn't have otherwise had. But sometimes if you go too far or make things too muddy, there's not much you can do. You just have to kind of start over, take what you've learned from that painting, and go back to the drawing board. It's kind of like, I know some of you might not relate to this, but I grew up in the 80s with video games, and that that era where it was a leveled game, and it's like you'd play and then you die and then you have to start all the way back over at the beginning, but you learned like how to beat certain things or certain levels. It's kind of like that. Like sometimes you just die. It's terrible to say. Like halfway through your painting, you're like, oh, I gotta abandon ship. But I learned a lot, and I know exactly what I'm gonna do next time, or how to handle that tricky piece. So this one is definitely, I'm using more of the Dioxazine purple just as dioxazine purple and not blending it as much. And I'm using more raw sienna that is like just pure, pretty thick raw sienna as the texture. And I'm getting two completely different kind of looks and feels. I kind of really like this one better. Let's add some more over here. So this is, I'm doing really kind of wet on damp. This isn't completely dry, but it's dry enough that this thick paint is not going to bleed into it. But that's making me feel a lot better about this one. And I've gone outside my circle here, making it a little wider. And this is pure dioxazine purple. It almost looks black. It will dry a little lighter, but this color can be a beast. Oh, I'm loving the kind of the new, this is not where the style I was planning to paint in when I first started these, but this new like sketchy style that is coming out of these is really great. And it almost looks not like watercolor. Like the undertones are watercolory, but like these layers on top are starting to feel almost acrylic because I'm painting with such thick paint. All right, well, I think we're out of time this morning. I hope this gives you some inspiration. I'm just gonna round out this highlight over here. I hope this gives you some inspiration to start playing in your sketchbook. Go grab some onions or some other fruit and start to look at the shape and form and the color and the texture and just work on trial and error, translating that to your sketchbook pages. Thanks so much for painting with me. I'm Shayna Searcy, and I will see you tomorrow. Hopefully you will be back, and don't forget to check out the description of this video for more information, as well as subscribe to this channel, like this video, and leave a comment. I love to hear your comments, whether it's suggestions for future subjects or questions about supplies and materials or this particular day, whatever it is you have. All right, take care, y'all. Happy painting, and I'll see you soon.